StoryO 2 video series. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to import a screenplay, how to export a screenplay, and how you can use StoryO to write your screenplay. Let's start by launching StoryO, or if you are already in StoryO, going to the project screen. Create a new StoryO project. Select the Import Screenplay option. Now, this is only needed if you already started your screenplay in Final Draft and you want to import it into StoryO to organize it better and to flesh out your characters. You can then export your screenplay back to Final Draft if you want. Enter a title for the StoryO project. Then click OK. The next dialog reminds you that you can only import a screenplay saved in the FDX file format, which is Final Draft's save format. Click Continue. Enter a name for the sequence for this screenplay. StoryO imports your entire screenplay into one sequence on the timeline. The index cards will be your scenes. Next, select a color for that sequence. You can always change the color to any of the hundreds of available colors later. Initially, leave the Do Not Import Characters checkbox unchecked. This is only if you want to import your screenplay into StoryO in sections. For example, let's say you want to separate your screenplay into 3 acts. You would save your screenplay in Final Draft into 3 FDX files, each containing only 1 act. You would then import 1 act at a time, therefore giving you 3 sequences on the timeline, which you can name Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. If you do this, you might want to check the Do Not Import Characters checkbox when you import Act 2 and Act 3 so as not to duplicate the characters. Now, of course, if you have characters in Act 2 that are not in Act 1, this is something that you have to consider. For this tutorial, we're going to use the StoryO import.fdx file, which is located in the Saved Projects folder. When completed, you will see one sequence created in the timeline. Select the Index Card button, and you will see all your scenes as index cards. Notice that the 2 checkboxes at the bottom of the screen are checked. The Screenplay Display checkbox converts all your index cards to show screenplay information. And the Stripboard Colors checkbox displays the color of the index card based on the stripboard or production color, which is a combination of the interior-exterior field and the day-night field. Let's go ahead and edit a scene. As long as the Screenplay Display checkbox is checked, when you select the Edit button on an index card, instead of being taken to the index card, you will be taken to the scene. I am going to close this window and show you how that works again. I'm going to deselect the Screenplay Display checkbox, and then click the Edit button on an index card, and notice I go to the card. Now, if I select the Screenplay Display checkbox and select the Edit button, I will now see only the screenplay information for that scene or card. In this screen, I can edit anything that I want. The types of paragraphs that you can add or edit are action, character, dialogue, parenthetical, and transition. All the same styles available in your typical screenplay program. I am going to add some action here. You can expand the field by clicking the Expand button. Let's add some more dialogue after Bill says his line. Select the Add Screenplay Line button. This will create a new line at the end of the scene. Change the line type to character. You can now select a character. I'll show you how to create a new character a bit later. Add another line. If the last line is a character type, the next line created will automatically be formatted as a dialogue line. And enter some dialogue. Then move the transition fade to the bottom of the scene. And notice that the line numbers change when you move lines around. Let's see what this looks like. If we close the window and then select the Display Print Screenplay button, you will see all the scenes for this sequence in Screenplay format. And here is our new character and dialogue. If you want, you can print the screenplay right from here. In essence, you can write an entire screenplay and print your screenplay directly from StoryO. You might notice that there is a screenplay button on the timeline screen above all the sequences, and a screenplay button on the index card screen. The button on the index card screen will only display the scenes for the selected sequence, while the screenplay button on the timeline screen will display all scenes for all sequences in the current order. This is quite powerful. So, to show you this, I'm going to add a new sequence and call it Norman Meets Natalie, and attach it to the screenplay segment. While we are at it, I'm going to change the name of the sequence we imported because it really is one scene in the screenplay, a dinner scene between Norman and his parents. So I'm going to change the name to Dinner with Parents. Now, let's add a few screenplay lines to the sequence. This scene is going to take place outside, so it's going to be exterior. The set is the beach, and the time of day is sunset. I'm not sure what the scene number is going to be, so I'm going to leave it blank. Let's add an action line. Norman walks on the beach and sees a beautiful girl. He hesitates and approaches her. Norman says hello, and Natalie responds. Okay, let's preview what this looks like. This sequence takes place before this sequence. Now, if you select the Display Print Screenplay button and notice the new sort order of the scenes by sequence order. Next, notice that the scene number order is not sequential. If you are not in production mode, which means that you are in writing mode, you should renumber your scenes. You don't have to do this, but you can. You can also renumber your scenes in Final Draft if you're going to export your screenplay to that program. Select Auto Number Scenes, and your screenplay will renumber beginning from 1. As mentioned before, you can create your entire screenplay in StoryO and then print it. If you want a more traditional screenwriting platform and more professional screenwriting features, you could also export your screenplay to the FDX file format and use it in Final Draft. In order to export your screenplay, from the File pull-down menu, select Export. Notice there are 4 options. If you select the Screenplay option, there are 2 options. You can export your screenplay to a text file, or you can export your screenplay to the FDX file format, which can then be opened in Final Draft. Notice that the page count will not export, as this is determined by the Screenplay program. Now, let's build the FDX file. Let's check it by opening it in Final Draft. You can now edit the screenplay, use Final Draft's professional screenwriting features, or print it from here. That wraps up this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to go over the Characters module.